And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. It has been quite a journey to realize what these words mean by writer Anais Nin, what they mean not abstractly, but firsthand. How remaining tight in the bud translates into gut-twisting heartache and sleepless nights and depressed days. How there gets to be a point where you can't fool yourself anymore. You can't shush up the unfulfilled needs anymore. You have to make changes. And you have to take the risk to blossom. I wish I had more years to give. In light of everything going on, I'm painfully aware of it. I sincerely wish I had more years to give. But I could not give those years out of integrity. My ministry flows out of my whole being, and the lack of wholeness has been an issue for long enough. The bud that's felt increasingly painful, it must now blossom. So many of you have been surprised to hear of my personal situation, how 7 years after my divorce, things are still not working for me in Atlanta. And there's a lot to that story, including the fact that I regret none of it. That these past years have been the most personally transformative years of my life. I'm a better person for them. I am a more humane person for them. There's a lot to the story, and I ask for your kindness in respecting my privacy and not prodding me for details or giving me dating advice. Someone I was talking to recently was like, "Are you too picky?" Clearly, I need to be more picky with my friendships. People have been kind. People have been understanding and gracious, and I'm grateful. But there's also shock, perhaps even a bit of anger, that you are only now hearing of this. Perhaps you feel misled. All I can say is I am your minister and you are not my minister. Those who minister to me and know the rawness of my heart, they must be other than you, because that is professionalism. But there's also the reality of complexity. When you see me smile or hear my laughter, I'm not faking it. It's honest. This place, this beloved community has been a true sanctuary for me. The work with you has been such great joy. It has brought me such great joy. I have been changed beautifully by our time together. If you happen to see a picture of me from 12 years ago and compare that to a picture of me today, you may wonder how it is I look younger now than then. Don't go looking for pictures from me 12 years ago. But it's true. UUCA has been good for me. And I have sincerely tried to be good for you. Just the best I knew how. I have tried. And we are still not done yet. I am with you for several months still. As you heard earlier, I will be at the congregational retreat at the mountain, just loving every moment. My last Sunday will be June 16th, Father's Day. The following week is Ministry Days and General Assembly. And then following that, I will be, as you can imagine, super busy packing and just dealing with all that stuff, that's right. But between now and then, we have work to do in facing the challenges of maintaining forward momentum, and I pledge to give that my full attention. And there will also be the work of grieving. My good friend, the Reverend Matthew Cockram, tells me that this work of grieving and letting go is really a matter of three things. First of all, asking for and offering a blessing. Second of all, asking for and offering forgiveness. And then the third thing, saying goodbye. I hope this can happen with each and every one of you in some way, preferably with a whole lot of hugs. Know that as we do this, other losses in our lives are going to come up. Our tears for each other will be mingled with tears for a lost friend, a lost parent, a lost child, some other lost beloved. Our grief work is to let it be what it will be. This too is part of what it means to be a spiritual being, having a human experience. But now I want to explore with you a truth that my leaving must highlight in all power and profundity, because maintaining forward momentum cannot be the work of just a few. It never is. But right now, especially, we must recognize this more honestly and more urgently than ever before. The story that Taryn shared earlier will serve as our way in. So we are the monastery. Let's pretend that to be so. We are the monastery, but it is 12 years after the abbot introduced the vision of the Messiah is one of us, which helped transform everything. 12 years after this, the abbot announces he is leaving. Unexpectedly, one day, each monk finds a note slipped under his door. They find the note, they read about the abbot's decision, his parting blessings to them. And here's what happens next. The abbot had hoped to leave his people with peace and grace, but who was he kidding? The abbot is leaving! People are shouting to each other. How dare he? Of all times now. People were sad. People were disappointed. People, hopefully most of them, felt connected to him. When despair or trouble overwhelmed them, they went to him. His door was open to them. They trusted in the ministry of his presence. Plus, he was real with them. They liked that. They liked the fire in the pulpit because it was part of who he was. They liked his sense of humor because it was part of who he was. And they liked his sense of humility. It meant he was empty enough of himself that he had room inside for what others might say, so that he could truly listen. Perhaps it was because of this humility that the abbot thought he could leave his people with peace and grace. With just that, perhaps he had not accurately estimated how much he had meant to them. Besides the personal connection, there was also the institutional connection. He was a leader, a facilitator. His job was to gather and rally the people. He was the one who preached the vision of the Messiah is one of us, who sparked the whole thing, got the ball rolling. Yes, the Messiah is one of us, but what if some of us have more Messiah energy than others? And so the monks were in an uproar. Who can fill his shoes? What happens next? How can we go on without him? The monastery is him. Where do we go from here? In short, it was not peace and grace that the abbot left people with. It was with sadness, shock, anger, anxiety, suspicion, bitterness, feelings of abandonment, also feelings of fear that all the good energy and momentum that had been building up within the community would suddenly go away. It's grace and glow. go away. All of these big feelings, and he sincerely felt the weight of them. He felt the weight. So he decided to gather the monks into a great assembly and say a few words, address what was happening, talk about where to go from here, hope to God that he could say something that was worth listening to. He said to them, first of all, I am leaving home. I go with gratitude. Thank you for changing my life. I love you. I believe in you. He said all that with his customary graciousness, and then his guard just crumbled and he just started babbling. Holy crap, this is hard. I'm just exhausted. Twisted up in knots. How do you do this with people you love? How do you do this with people who have been a home to you? They didn't say anything about this in seminary. He babbled. See, I'm telling a story, but it's real, right? He babbled a bit, then coughed to cover up his embarrassment at his self-indulgence. He collected himself, started over, saying, friends, the word about my leaving has only now gone out. We are only at the beginning of a process of saying goodbye. Nothing can instantaneously clear up the big feelings that we are all feeling, yet perhaps there is something I can say that will help us do what needs to be done, which is to give ourselves fearlessly to the flow of life here and now, to trust the process. Please hear me. 12 years ago, I brought into this place a vision that made my heart burst with joy, that the Messiah is one of us. Not a scarcity mentality, that the Messiah is always something else or someone else somewhere apart from us and we have to go reaching for it. It's not something we already have here, always searching and seeking for it beyond us. No, not that. And also not the idea that there can be only one official Messiah, only one person among us who gets to be brilliant, only one person among us who gets to have a good news imagination, who gets to do genuine ministry, while everyone else sits and receives, or they criticize from the sidelines. That is not the vision I brought here. The vision I brought was the Messiah is one of us. Sometimes me, sometimes you. The work of ministry belongs to all of us. If anyone has the luxury to criticize from the sidelines, well, that person needs to get busy helping to be a part of the solution, even if all that means is being a little more trusting. The work of ministry belongs to us all. For all the 12 years that I have been among you, I have been only as good as you let me be. You could have pecked me to death like ducks. I've only been as good as you have let me be. You gave me big shoes to fill and trusted I could fill them. And I hope I did. You saw me with eyes of wonder. I saw you with eyes of wonder. When I screwed up, you carried me. We carried each other. Energy went back and forth between us. We created this monastery together. I was only as good as you were and are. It means that if you believe in it and trust in it, you will only go from strength to strength. This place will continue changing lives. Plans are in preparation to ensure a smooth transition, which you will learn from Sister Carol Ann soon. A special nun in our monastery. Here's where the story just falls flat, but whatever. You are in good hands. And above all, always above all, the Messiah is still one of us. I may leave, but the Messiah does not leave with me. The Messiah stays right here. I hope you will hold on to that, even as it's hard to know exactly what is coming up, even as things may still feel a bit messy. I was only as good as you were and are. You are strong. You will go from strength to strength. Believe it. A last word to you. In upcoming weeks and months, please take special care to be the Messiah for each other. Anxiety can sometimes make people do mean things and say mean things and spread rumors. Anxiety can make people assume unfair things. You are better than that. Help each other through the shock and the grief. When another is hurting, be strong for them. When you are hurting, don't you run away. Don't you run away. You let someone else be strong for you. We are all in this thing together. Keep hope and faith alive among you. If we pull together and not apart, it is going to be okay. That's what the abbot said. And as people heard what he said, the Messiah was still among them. The abbot was leaving, but it was going to be okay. And in subsequent months, of course, there were ups and downs. But the monks never forgot the vision at the heart of their community. The Messiah is one of us. And that is why the entire community never stopped glowing with kindness and grace. That is why their spiritual life never stopped being profound and deep. That is why the worship services never stopped vibrating with an amazing energy. And that is why the community never stopped growing. New people kept on coming in because they wanted to be a part of a place with a resilient heart. A place that doesn't promise escape from the changes and hurts of life, because then that would be lying. No, it was a place that grieved honestly and openly, but then shook off the dust, got back on its feet, and kept going. It was a place with a vision and a purpose. A place that never forgot it existed to serve a higher vision of changing lives. A place that believed to the bottom of its heart that peace is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of love in the face of struggle. Because of this, the people kept coming. The people stayed. The community was blessed. The Messiah was indeed one of us. And that's the end of the story. And I want it to be our story here at UUCA. Be urgent for the mission of this place. Be urgent for your commitment to continue changing lives here and more that are not yet here. You will only go from strength to strength if you believe. I am honest when I say I was only as strong as you let me be. I was only as good as you were and are. The Messiah is one of us. Amen.
Our final hymn this morning is Anthony's favorite hymn. He'd do it every Sunday if I